The topic of discussion is lateral compartment of leg. Now looking at the section, and as already been discussed, you can see the two bones of leg. Medial one is tibia and the lateral bone is fibula. The medial surface and anterior border of tibia is subcutaneous, so you can see it under the skin and subcutaneous tissue. Then the two bones are connected to each other by interosseous membrane. The lateral border of tibia is the interosseous border, which gives attachment to the interosseous membrane, while the medial border of fibula is the interosseous border giving attachment to interosseous membrane. And then there is this deep fascia, which is enclosing the compartments of leg. You can see two septa, anterior septum attached to the anterior border of fibula coming from the deep fascia, and then you can also observe the posterior septum coming towards the posterior border of the fibula. These attachment to the bones of the septa and interosseous membrane divides the leg into three compartments. This is the anterior compartment, and this is the lateral compartment, which is the smallest one, and then the largest one is the posterior compartment, which is again divided into two parts, superficial and deep part, by this transverse intermuscular septum. Now we can clearly observe that lateral compartment is bounded anteriorly by the anterior intermuscular septum, posteriorly by the posterior intermuscular septum. Then we have the lateral surface of fibula on the medial side, and the lateral side we have deep fascia of leg. This is the smallest and the narrowest compartment of leg, and it consists of two muscles, two everters, which are peroneus longus and peroneus brevis, or we can also call them fibularis longus and fibularis brevis. Then you can observe a nerve within the substance of fibularis longus, which is the superficial fibular nerve. This nerve is going to supply these muscles. Arterial supply is mainly through the fibular artery or the peroneal artery, which is a branch of posterior tibial artery, and this artery is not going to enter the compartment, rather it is going to give perforating branches from the posterior compartment to supply this compartment. And then we have lots of unnamed veins. The superficial veins are going to drain into this small saphenous vein, which you can see here in the posterior aspect of the subcutaneous tissue, while the anterolateral aspect we can observe there is another superficial vein, the great saphenous vein here. These veins will be discussed later. The superficial muscle of this compartment is fibularis longus. Here you can see it is taking origin from the lateral aspect of head of fibula and upper part of lateral surface of fibula. And then this muscle is the longer one, that is why it is called fibularis longus, and it is going to pass over the fibularis brevis muscle. Here you can observe. Then this muscle is passing behind the lateral malleolus and along with the brevis tendon, and then below the trochlea of calcaneal bone. This is an elevation on the calcaneum bone, and it is going to act like a pulley for the action of these muscles. Then after taking a turn here, it is going towards the plantar surface of foot. Here you can see it is going to groove the inferior aspect of cuboid, moving towards the medial side. This tendon is inserted over the lateral aspect of medial cuneiform bone and on the plantar aspect of the base of first metatarsal. This muscle is the everter of foot, and then it is a plantar flexor at ankle joint. Eversion occurs at subtarsal joint. Nerve supply is the superior fibular nerve L5, S1, S2, while the blood supply is through the perforating branches from anterior tibial and peroneal arteries. The deep muscle is fibularis brevis, which is taking origin from the lower part of lateral surface of fibula. Here, it lies deep to the fibularis longus muscle, and then its tendon lies deep to the fibularis longus tendon behind the medial malleolus. It is in direct contact with medial malleolus and separates the medial malleolus from the fibularis longus tendon. Then it is going to pass over the trochlea of calcaneus bone and is inserted on the dorsolateral or posterolateral aspect of the base of fifth metatarsal. Talking about the action, it is an everter of subtalar joint and the plantar flexor at ankle joint. Nerve supply is again through superficial fibular nerve L5, S1, S2, and is also supplied by the perforating branches from peroneal artery or fibular artery. An important relation to remember is that initially this muscle is deep to the fibularis longus up till behind the lateral malleolus. Then this muscle lies superior to the tendon of fibularis longus. Fibularis longus here you can see is going inferiorly towards the plantar aspect. So the relation changes here. Now, talking about the mechanisms of these muscles, first we discuss the range of inversion and eversion. You can see here that the range of inversion is more than the eversion. Then here an important point to discuss is that fibularis brevis is going to perform eversion by lifting the lateral border of the foot, while the mechanism of fibularis longus is different, as it is going towards the plantar aspect of the medial side. It is going to perform eversion by keeping the medial border of the foot on ground or bringing it on ground while walking. This diagram shows another importance of peroneus longus or fibularis longus muscle as it is passing from the lateral aspect towards the plantar side. This muscle is going to maintain the lateral longitudinal arch and the transverse arch. These arches will be discussed later in detail. Another important point here is that trochlea of calcaneum bone is going to work as a pulley at which the tendons of fibularis longus and brevis are angulated and then inserted. So this is an important point. Lateral compartment ends here near the lower end of fibula, and from here the two peroneal or fibular tendons are going to pass deep to two deep fascia thickenings. Here you can see the superior fibular retinaculum, which is attached from the posterior border of lateral malleolus to the lateral surface of calcaneum bone, and then there is another thickening of the fascia called inferior fibular retinaculum, which is attached from the anterior surface of calcaneum to the lower or distal part of lateral surface of calcaneum. Superior retinaculum is going to keep the tendons placed behind the lateral malleolus, while the inferior retinaculum is going to keep the tendons placed along the trochlea of calcaneum. Now, as previously discussed, the superior fibular retinaculum is attached from posterior border of lateral malleolus to the lateral surface of calcaneum. You can see it here. And the important point to observe is that under this retinaculum, both the peroneal or fibular tendons are enwrapped by a single or common synovial sheath. This diagram also shows that under the superior retinaculum, they have a common synovial sheath. The tendon of both muscles are lying in a single compartment under cover of superior retinaculum. The tendon of fibularis longus is lying superficial to the fibularis brevis muscle, and the fibularis brevis tendon is in direct contact with the posterior aspect of lateral malleolus. Inferior fibular retinaculum is attached from the anterior surface of calcaneum to the lateral surface of calcaneum. Here you can observe that the tendons of fibular muscles, they are passing above and below the peroneal trochlea under cover of this retinaculum, and there is a septum passing from this retinaculum deep and is attached to the trochlea of calcaneum. So it is going to divide this space in two compartments for the two tendons. So now the important relation here are that the peroneus brevis tendon is passing superior to the peroneal trochlea, and peroneus longus tendon is passing inferior to the peroneal retinacula in the superior and inferior compartments under cover of inferior peroneal retinaculum. As the two muscles are passing in separate compartments, they are also lined by separate synovial sheaths. This point is important as these tendons are passing over a pulley shaped structure, and they are working over a bony trochlea, so they are more prone to wear and tear. They are also more prone to trauma during forced eversion and inversions, so these muscles can be damaged. Moreover, in the common synovial sheath, there is more chances of tenosynovitis, which is the inflammation of the synovial sheath and the peroneal tendons. Whereas in the inferior peroneal retinaculum, the tenosynovitis is less common. So talking about the nerve supply of the lateral compartment of leg, which is the superficial fibular nerve, also called the musculocutaneous nerve of leg. This nerve is going to arise from common fibular nerve, and we know that the sciatic nerve at the superior angle of popliteal fossa is going to divide into common fibular and tibial nerve. Common fibular nerve at the level of neck of fibula is going to divide into superficial and deep fibular nerve. Now, in the upper one third of leg, the superficial peroneal nerve is going to pass through the substance of fibularis longus muscle and also give it muscular branches. Then, in the middle one third of the leg, it is going to pass between fibularis longus and brevis muscles. In the lower one third, this nerve is going to pierce the deep fascia of leg and become cutaneous. This cutaneous nerve is going to divide into medial and lateral branches, and they are going to supply the skin of lower one third of anterior and lateral surface of leg, and it is also going to supply the dorsum of foot, except the territory of some nerves we are going to discuss in the next slide. And then the medial and lateral branches are going to give digital cutaneous branches. So, as already discussed with the course, passing through the lateral compartment, the superficial peroneal nerve or the superficial fibular nerve is going to give muscular branches to fibularis longus and fibularis brevis muscle. At the lower one third of leg, it is going to become cutaneous. It is going to supply the anterolateral aspect of leg and dorsum of foot. Here you can see the exception. It is not going to supply the first interdigital cleft here, which is the territory of deep fibular nerve. And then over the medial side, you can see this is the territory of saphenous nerve, while on the lateral border, this is the territory of sural nerve. So this pink area is showing you the territory of superficial fibular nerve. The medial terminal cutaneous branch is going to divide into two digital nerves, one for the medial side of big toe here, and the second for the second interdigital cleft here. And then the lateral terminal branch is going to divide into two dorsal digital nerves again for the third and fourth interdigital clefts here, you can see. So talking about the injury of superficial peroneal nerve, there will be loss of the action of peroneal muscles or fibular muscles. There will be loss of eversion, and there will be a weakness of plantar flexion. There will be sensory loss over this anterolateral aspect of leg and dorsum of foot, except the areas supplied by other nerves. As we already discussed that the lateral compartment does not have a proper arterial channel. The anterior tibial artery, which is going to supply the anterior compartment of leg, here you can see gives perforating branches in the upper part, upper 1/3. These perforating branches perforate the anterior intermuscular septum to reach the lateral compartment and supply fibularis longus muscle. Then we can see here, arising from the posterior tibial artery is the fibular artery. This artery also gives perforating branches, which is going to supply the lower 2/3 of lateral compartment, mainly the lower part of fibularis longus and most of the part of fibularis brevis muscle. These perforating branches of fibular artery are going to perforate posterior intermuscular septum to enter the lateral compartment. Now the similar venous channels are going to perforate the septa in reverse direction and reach their named veins. Individual injury to superficial fibular nerve is not very common. It is commonly associated with the paralysis or injury of deep peroneal fibers also, and this occurs with the fibular fracture and injury to common peroneal nerve. And this common peroneal nerve injury usually occur due to fracture of neck of fibula or pressure from a cast or splint. Now you can clearly observe that the common peroneal nerve is distributed through deep peroneal nerve and superficial peroneal nerve. So anterior compartment of leg and the lateral compartment of leg muscles are going to be paralyzed, and skin distribution of both superficial and deep peroneal nerve are going to be affected. There would be loss of dorsiflexion of ankle due to the loss of anterior compartment action, and there will be loss of eversion of foot due to peroneal injury. And then foot is in this condition, you can see here it is plantar flexed and inverted due to unopposed action of the posterior compartment. This condition is known as Talipes equinovarus. Injury to superficial peroneal nerve individually is not very common, and it usually occur when there is stretching of this nerve due to continuous eversion and inversion movement while walking on irregular surface. And injury to superficial peroneal nerve results in the paralysis of peroneal muscles, and then there is overactivity of the inverter muscles, as we have already discussed, known as Talipes varus. In case of paralysis of anterior tibial muscles, there is paralysis of inverters, and the opposite condition of overactivity of peroneal muscles is called Talipes valgus. In diagram A, there is overactivity of inverters, and in diagram B, there is overactivity of everters.
This video is for